right. Your applause is expected. So a 19-year-old man known as Big Balls is now advising the State Department. Coincidentally, Big Balls was also the Secret Service code name for a former First Lady. Oh, I know your sweet spot now. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth changed the name of Fort Liberty back to Fort Bragg. Now, if you can just get Alvin Bragg to change his name to Fort Fat Ass Bitch. George Stephanopoulos is rumored to be miserable on the set of Good Morning America. Yeah. Apparently, they have to keep flossing him out of Michael Strahan's teeth.
Oh, I love Michael Strahan.
According to one expert, the Trump administration is set to open the floodgates on UFOs. It's about time. Maybe they'll stop blaming me for all those anal probes. The NFL has revealed that the Palestinian protester at the Super Bowl halftime show was actually a dancer hired to perform at the event. Even more surprising, the quarterback for the Chiefs was actually Liz Warren. Democratic Senator Chris Coons defended the use of taxpayer dollars to create an Iraqi version of Sesame Street. It's hard for him to be objective, though, because, well, you know... According to Doge, USAID paid terrorist Anwar al-Awlaki's tuition at Colorado State. He chose Colorado State because the mascot reminded him of his girlfriend.
Solid.
In other sports news, according to the Washington Times, USAID gave $6.3 million to study men having sex with other men in South Africa. I know, I had no idea we funded soccer. And finally, due to listeria concerns, the FDA has recalled more than 2 million donuts. I know, or as some people call it, breakfast. All right. So, removing your anatomy isn't enough for the Academy. True, in Hollywood, you can change your sex, but you can't change your past. Which means it's time for...
Assembled together in one place, the greatest segment in cable television, Trans Tuesday. But it identifies as a Wednesday.
Happy Trans Tuesday that identifies as Wednesday. Tonight I speak of the Oscar-nominated film Emilia Perez. It's about a Mexican drug lord who wants to ditch his criminal past by transitioning into a woman. Yeah, the bright side is there's now one more hole to hide drugs. But because she was a man and now a woman, you know Hollywood's gotta love it. Even better, it's a musical. A musical with a trans star. All that's missing is a rainbow caused by Jimmy Kimmel's tears. No wonder it's been nominated for 13 Academy Awards. Is this film any good? I haven't seen it. But have a look for yourself.
Hello, very nice to meet you. I'd like to know about sex change operation.
I see. Men to woman, or woman to men.
Man to woman.
From penis to vagina. Is it for you?
For me?
What would you like to know about it, madam?
I want to know it all. What is the protocol, the techniques and the risks? How many operations? How much time do you need?
Mammoplasty.
Yes.
Vaginoplasty.
Yes.
Rhinoplasty.
Yes.
Laryngoplasty.
Yes.
Mammoplasty.
Yes.
Vaginoplasty.
Yes.
Rhinoplasty.
Yes.
Laryngoplasty.
Yes.
Control laryngoplasty.
What is that?
Adam's apple reduction.
Yes, 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 yes.
Jeez, who knew cutting off your junk could be so damn fun? They should have just called the movie It, but Stephen King beat it to it. So there you go. It's got everything, meaning it's got one thing: wokeness. And once Hollywood heard it had a trans in the lead, they were on it like Amber Heard's poop on Johnny Depp's bed. It's an easy move to get activists on social media blowing you kisses. It's low risk and it's high reward. It's like taking in foster kids. But, you know, they don't work out. No one will miss them. Tyrus. But then disaster struck. Not the fires, but something worse. Twitter. It turns out Carla Sofia Gascon, who plays the lead, had posted some bad tweets a decade ago, back when Carla was a man named Carlos. See, those testicles will get you in trouble every time. In the resurfaced tweets, meaning somebody went and searched for them in order to ruin a newly successful person's life, Gascon had said things like, quote, Islam is becoming a hotbed of infection. Are you sure Carla didn't mean Leo DiCaprio's futon? Gascon also criticized, dear God, the saintly George Floyd. The tweet said, quote, I really think that very few people ever cared about George Floyd, a drug addict swindler. But his death has served to once again demonstrate that there are people who still consider black people to be monkeys without rights and consider policemen to be assassins. They're all wrong. There's some nuance there. The more I read of these, the more I'm starting to like this broad. I mean, her tweets could have more jokes involving poop, but I've read worse. But like that homeless guy I liquefied, this put the virtue signalers in a jam. That was for Joe Mackey. They probably hadn't even seen the movie, but they had to support it or else. Then those tweets appear, and the left began eating their own faster than Joy Behar and Ana Navarro stuck in an elevator. Gascon's movie got all those nominations because she ticked the box, and now those who obediently nominated her are boxed in themselves. And the tweets, honestly, weren't that bad, just opinions separate from the actor's work. But Hollywood is a coward's industry. They'll do whatever protects their status and nothing more. So Gascon has since been banished from the movie's Oscar campaign, which is now all but dead. Her co-stars are distancing themselves from her like Alec Baldwin at a gun range. Selena Gomez is about to burst into tears again. She cries more than I did during childbirth. A lot of powerful Hollywood libs lifted Gascon up because of identity politics. And now identity politics has forced them to tear her down. They wanted a trans figurehead, then acted shocked when she turned out to be a complicated person who had some opinions they disagreed with. It must be exhausting to navigate the liberal hierarchy of victimhood. Trans people are always the victims unless they piss off even bigger victims. And if you don't know who the biggest victim is in any given situation, well, then you're the bigot. Which raises the question, who is really worse to trans people? Conservatives who want to keep you out of women's bathrooms, or liberals who want you to keep from thinking? Let's welcome tonight's guest. He's getting married soon and divorced by June. Actor, writer, comedian Jamie Lissow. He looks like a doll from a horror movie. Comedian Joe Mackey. She'll be giving hot takes until her water breaks. New York Times bestselling author and Fox News contributor, Cassie. And he eats cereal out of the Superdome. New York Times bestselling author, comedian, and former NWA World Champion. Jamie, you don't have a lot to do, so I've been assuming you've been following this saga. Have you been?
Yeah, I've been following this very, very closely, and I think I don't know a ton about it.
Yeah,
may not surprise you, but I think if I was like a guy and then I transitioned to be a woman, and someone was like, "I can't believe those old tweets you wrote," I'd be like, "Yeah, I can't believe that guy did it either." Man, I got so mad at that guy I cut his penis off. I'm with you guys. You know what I mean? Like I would use that as my argument.
Yeah, according to, I guess, theory, that person doesn't exist anymore.
That's right. I'm also angry that song in the music was so catchy.
I know.
I hate the words to it, but I was like, God, I'm dancing. It's like penis to vagina. It's just very literal. They're also attacking this movie for kind of the same old thing, which is like they hired a trans person to play a trans person, which is Hollywood says great. But then they're also saying like, oh, the director doesn't speak Spanish. They're doing all that stuff where people forget that movies, that's what a movie is. It's people pretending to be other people. Like that's the entire point. It's not a documentary. It's not surveillance. I remember when I did like Real Rob, I played Rob Schneider's assistant, and my mom called me and she goes, I like the show, but I do not like how Rob Schneider treats you. And I go, first of all, I wrote it. And second of all, it's acting. Like Johnny Depp's not really a pirate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's actually not a good example. He might be a pirate.
He could be. He definitely dresses like one in the off season. Mackie, always a mediocre pleasure to see you. Is this like the first interesting thing to happen to the Oscars since Will Smith?
It probably is, Greg, but I think it's quite telling that Hollywood will defend you till the cows come home with her trans stuff. But the second you have an opinion that's not safe or popular for them to share, they're like, oh, that Gascon's got a pretty big mouth. You know, it's just one of those things where I understand why they don't support free speech, because none of the views they espouse really stand up to any kind of strict scrutiny. And you would think like a trans activist would see that coming. But my whole problem with all of this is that if it's an honest competition, what does it matter what this person believes? You know, I don't want to enter a bodybuilding contest and I not judge me on my massive deltoids. I don't want them to say, well, I'm not going to pick Joe because he's an arrogant pretty boy that lives by his own rules.
You get that a lot in your bodybuilding world, don't you?
All the time. A lot of jealousy, Greg.
Yeah. I get it. I totally get it.
Well, a little bit.
So, Kat, I think they're no longer going to pay her flight and hotel to the Oscars. They removed her from billboards because of tweets.
Right.
After they were promoting her.
Full disclosure, I have not seen the movie.
Neither have I.
No,
but that has not stopped me.
Because this kind of thing offends me.
Yeah.
By which I mean musicals. Like,
Yeah.
can't. It's so uncomfortable.
Yes.
They start singing and dancing. But I think it's good to see a lot of people learning something that I've been talking about forever, which is that trans people are not a monolith. They're a group of individuals. Just because you're trans does not necessarily mean that you're woke. And I think that that is a good thing for people who are liberal and conservative, some people, to learn.
Trans can be racists.
I mean, also, I just don't understand how this has anything to do with the Oscars.
Yeah.
I don't understand how, like, if we can't give Oscars to people who have controversial opinions, let alone have done controversial things, we have a lot of reassigning to do.
Yeah.
So I think it's super weird. I also think it's weird when people describe posts as resurfaced when that doesn't, like, resurfaced is like the ex that, like, comes back into your life when you start doing well.
Yeah.
These aren't resurfaced. This is people go digging for these things, which to me is always fascinating to think about why, you know, that happens.
Yeah. Tyrus, I bet you love this topic. Did you like the song?
No, I didn't. You know, I find it ironic, Greg, that apparently trans women can be too. So,
Nicely done.
but to acknowledge what Kat had said previously, that's right, not to her point. I think that they need to hold the writers with the resurfacing to the same standard. So if you're going to go find someone's dirty X tweet from 10 years ago, you have to show yours at the same time, because this is getting to the point where ridiculous. Everybody says dumb, okay? What homeboy, homegirl, whatever said 10 years ago shouldn't matter what they're doing in the performance. The performance is terrible. And it was just watching that video, I was upset again. The irony, they talk about they want inclusion and they want everyone to be respected, but the Asian guy's voice was horrible and it was a stereotype. It sounded like he was selling fortune cookies. Like they couldn't fix that in post. You're laughing, but you know when he started singing, you're like, damn, wow, that's the most racist Asian voice I ever heard. They dubbed that in there. So I think you got to be able to pick everything apart. You got to be able to say what you want to say, because if I was ever up for an Academy Award and they broke out my tweets or my fight record at bars when I was a bodyguard, I'd be like, yes, but I acted really well. That's why we're supposed to be here. They did this to Kevin Hart, because he had old tweets, and now they're doing it to the group that they said is the most dangerous group to pick on and mess with because of suicide rates and all these things that you told us that you can never criticize someone in this category, in this box. And you're not only doing it, you're literally telling them, you're not welcome.
Yes.
You can't come to our party. You can't fly a plane ticket. That sounds the most worse than any conservative would ever do. At least fly them out and let them be on the panel. Give them a nice hotel and a meal of food before you tear apart their way of life. They're saying, you can't come. So what group is good? What box do you have to check to fit in at the Academy Awards? Because it's not the box that everyone's watching at home called the TV, because no one's watching that.
Yeah, and even with the Kevin Hart thing, they're the ones losing out. Like, they didn't get someone that would have been a hilarious host, and they said, let's find somebody that doesn't have any tweets. Do you remember that year? There was no host.
Yeah, that's right.
They didn't find anybody, and we had to watch, like, a horrible program. Yeah, I think they're only hurting themselves.
They really are, Jamie. Thank you for buttoning up that segment with something superfluous. Up next, a shrink sees a bump and folks whining about Trump.
A story in 5 words.
Shrink sees uptick in TDS. All right, Joe. A Georgetown psychology professor says she's seeing an increase in Democrat patients expressing a, quote, sense of burnout, guilt, and despair, which you're used to, at losing an old way of life since Trump has been elected. They credit or they blame the administration's chaos due to all the executive orders and Doge actions. What say you? Do you have any sympathy for them?
Well, first of all, Greg, Georgetown's in D.C., so it's just personally refreshing to see Democrats that are not upset about insider trading or, government corruption or having sex in a Senate Judiciary hearing room, The interesting thing, there's a little bit of a callback. That was a few months back, but that's okay. The interesting thing here, Greg, is that when I've gone to a therapist in my life, you kind of go because you want to hear a neutral ear, someone without a stake. But DC is like 96% 4% Democrat, so it's got to be tough to find that neutral, unbiased ear, because you go in there and like, I'm worried my friends might lose their jobs, and Trump is a fascist dictator that's going to kill us all. And the therapist is going to be like, yeah, you're right about that. Let's switch places after you're done.
Kat, it seems to me that they're blaming Trump's administration for stressing them out. But is it Trump's administration or their own irrationality?
Yeah. I don't mean to brag, but I've been in therapy throughout several administrations. So it has absolutely nothing to do with I'm not in any more therapy now than I was before. It's like I'm, in and out, kind of, depending on when I need it.
Yes.
Which I think is a good thing for anyone. But yeah, it hasn't been at all a result of politics. So I guess I'm just built different.
Yes.
Am I bragging too much?
Yes. I go to therapy when I need it.
Yeah. I think if you need
nerve.
it's good. I think it's good. If you realize, like, I'm But it depends on what the motivation is. Because I've seen people who like go to therapy just to learn therapy words, and then they use them against you in a way that's like, that's not what they mean. And it's like they're just getting to. But if you actually want to improve yourself and like the way that I'm living now isn't working for me, let's learn some skills.
Okay, well
that's another thing.
We're getting to the point then, which is that shouldn't the therapist be telling the person, Tyrus, that it's not the Trump administration that is doing this, it is your reaction to it. It is like the way you deal when things aren't going your way is driving you crazy. Trump's not the cause. It's all the that you've been told.
Yeah, you know what? Yes, a good point. Yeah.
Oh, take it. Clap away. Continue. No, I'm kidding. Stop.
Literally has nothing to do with what I'm about to say, though. The reason being because this therapist is leaking information to us.
Yes.
They're letting us know. What the Democrats are doing is they're going to a therapist to say, I might have been a part of some illegal for the last 4.5 years, and I don't know what to do, and I'm really afraid. Do you think I'll get in trouble if I was taking money and I was just doing this stuff and I got a student loan money even though I didn't have a student loan? Am I going to be in trouble? And the therapist is like, yes. And then afterwards, the therapist is down saying, there's a lot of people coming in for therapy. They're using like church to confess. I think they're all freaking out because what is everyone going crazy about? Doge.
Yeah.
They're finding stuff. So there's a lot of people, and like I said, I think it was a group think tank of corruption the last 4 years. Everyone was getting to put their ideas on because, you know, the president, I mean, Biden literally after the Super Bowl tried to thank Don Henley for the Eagles' win. So, I mean, you just the moronicness that they were able to get away with. Now they're running to therapists trying to say, hey, you think I'll get in trouble for this? And the therapist is like, yes, yes, you are. So I think it's more of that. To acknowledge what Mackey said, that the 2% of the therapists, the 94 are running to, and they're leaking it out to us.
Jamie, you carry a lot of emotional baggage regarding people in the past. Do you have advice for these people? I mean, it hasn't helped you, obviously. You're still a mess.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of times even at the airport, they're like, it's an extra 100 for that emotional baggage. Yeah, I'm sorry, but when I read this, I was like, good. Like, I was like, I think that there's a thing where Trump does so much stuff that I think like sometimes the Dems have trouble figuring out why they're supposed to be angry. By the time they figure out why they're supposed to be angry, something else happens. I think it almost creates a cognitive dissonance. I don't think it's real anger. I think it's like, why should I be angry? That's creating this confusion. And I do what Kat does. I was told, like, only go to therapy when you really need it. So I've been going every week my whole life. And I did learn in therapy. They said, like, you're not allowed to go. When I was with my ex-wife, they go, how do you, like, what do you think? What are you thinking right now? And I go, I want to punch her in the face. And they go, you can't. They tell you better ways to express that. So then I would go, after I went to therapy, I would go, what you're saying is making me feel like I want to punch you in the face. That's what I feel. I just think they can't get, the other thing is they can't get away from Trump. Like when Biden won, he kind of like disappeared. We'd wonder where he went for a while. With Trump, he's in your face all the time. And it reminds me of, I had a buddy of mine from high school. I swear this is a true story. And he was dating this girl and they were like high school sweethearts. And they broke up and he was very upset. And I remember him going, we were friends, but like, I'm only going to survive if I never see her again, never talk to her again. And the week after we graduated, she got a job as a local newscaster. And they put a billboard with her face on it at the corner of his street.
Wow.
And I think Trump is that friggin' billboard at the end of the street.
That is true. That is true. All right. You tell people that the world's going to end every 10 minutes, they're going to go crazy. That's what's going on. Up next, a teen's new job angers the lefty mob.
Story so good, there's no way to lose. Turn it and cough, it's breaking balls news.
The latest Breaking Balls news. Big Balls, now an advisor. In case you forgot about Big Balls, let us remind you.
That's that 19-year-old Muscade who goes by the online nickname Big Balls, now has a role inside the State Department, a senior advisor within the State Department at 19.
We begin tonight with Musk and Big Balls.
A 19-year-old with the online handle Big Balls.
In the one case of the Big Balls kid,
who has used the unfortunate nickname Big Balls online.
Take a deep breath for just a moment.
and ponder big balls.
We shall. Unfortunate? That is like the greatest nickname ever, Cat.
Oh, man.
So Big Balls is, he's been trying to clean up the U.S. Treasury. Now he's been appointed as a senior advisor to the State Department and the DHS. It is driving the media nuts because Big Balls is having a blast.
It really is wild to watch. That's the news.
Yes.
It's so I guess I'm just one of those people who's not used to having any particular reverence for government officials in general. So I'm not experiencing any new kind of terror because there's somebody who works there who goes by the alias Big Balls online to post offensive things or whatever. I guess for some people, maybe that's new. But it's when you look at the history of our government, there's people in our government, guys, who like sent people to die in wars based on lies. So excuse me for not crying and freaking out over Big Ball.
Yes. And Tyrus, it's like they're all upset about the kid's age. It's not the age, it's that he has a job that he's been asked to do that scares the out of him.
I'm offended by the whole thing, Greg.
Yes.
I'm offended, I'm triggered, I'm upset.
Yes.
I'm bewildered. Having big balls is like a medical condition. And for him to sit around and make fun, like we are a small community and we never get recognized. Like certain things, we can't wear briefs because it looks like a thong. We have to wear the long shorts. Maybe we'd like to wear, and this guy walking around, making fun of us. It's tough.
They need to make a movie about this, and you have to
or at least an infomercial. And guess what? We can't dance all over the place because our big balls get in the way. So it's just wrong. We're people too.
Yes. Jamie, is it true that your ex-wife's nickname for you was No Balls?
That's so funny. It started as Blue Balls, and then it transitioned. That was so fun to watch. All those clips were so. I feel like Big Balls is a very clever way to say tiny penis.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
That is true.
It's a positive spin. I like a positive spin. Like even when I was played football in high school, I used to say my athletic cup was half full. You know what I mean? I feel. Do you think everyone afraid of the transparency and looking for fraud is somehow complicit? I can't understand how anyone would be against any of this. I'm so excited to see the Fauci Museum thing. Anyway, I just trust Elon, and that's my bottom line. Like, if he says this guy's okay, I just decided Elon is so smart that all my beliefs are just now whatever he thinks.
Yeah.
I trust him.
You save a lot of time that way.
It's just so much easier. Sometimes he'll be like, I'm sending the rocket up in space because, and I'm like, don't need the because. Let it go. I trust you.
It is funny, Joe, watching all these politicians scream simply because you want to see what they're doing. That's all it is.
Yeah, and a lot of the point that they're making is that they're wondering what background check he had, and I think that's a fair question. But some of it's innuendo, like he had an internship he was apparently fired from, but what they said he did was he went in another company's chat and said he can get into this other company's computers. But he didn't use that. So basically what he was doing, he was exposing a vulnerability, which is exactly what he's supposed to do at Doge. And as for the nickname, like, who knows how nicknames are formed, Greg? In high school, everyone called me Giant Wiener.
We're going to need a list of names of people who called you that.
All right, well, that's good to know. I think we'll move on, shall we? Coming up, the views off base when ranting about race.
Our view on The View. Ugh.
Thank you. If her rants are bizarro, then it must be Ana Navarro. During The View's Super Bowl discussion on Monday, Ana Navarro theorized Trump was so outraged by Kendrick Lamar's halftime show that he'll ban blacks from ever performing again. Roll it, Helga.
You know I don't do sports. You know I don't do football, so I wasn't watching the game. But listen, I think today Donald Trump is going to sign an executive order banning black people from halftime.
She doesn't do sports. She doesn't do thinking. I mean, is it possible to get CTE from watching the Super Bowl? Because I think that she has it, because that made no sense. Blacks at the halftime show didn't originate from an executive order, and the NFL isn't part of the executive branch. But just because Anna's the size of a defensive end doesn't mean she knows anything about football. But our little race war was just getting started.
You remember last week we were talking about whether the NFL was capitulating to Trump by removing the term "end racism" from the end zone.
Yeah.
Boy, did they not capitulate to Trump. When I saw Samuel L. Jackson dressed as a black Uncle Sam introducing Kendrick Lamar, who then had like an entire formation of all black people making a U.S. flag. Listen, this much I know. All the black people on my feed were like, ooh, this is blackity black black. And all the racists who somehow get in, man, were they hopping mad. So if the racists are mad, I am happy as a clam.
The only clam that's happy is the one that somehow escaped your plate. Tyrus, this is the world that The View lives in, and it keeps getting smaller and smaller. I love every minute of it.
I thought it was 1950. I haven't been called blacks that many times. Like, it's the stupidest. The President of the United States was there live in person. You don't think he could have said, when he saw the pre-show, hey, there's a lot of blacks here at halftime. We sprinkle some can we get a couple whites running across the field? He's the President of the United States who was actually present at the thing and enjoyed the halftime show. And the blacks on your feed, that means none.
Yes.
You sat there and you said the halftime show was not good. Period. And it had nothing to do with the color of the skin. It had to do with songs that everyone was like, what? Okay? You wanted to do your little feud with Drake at the halftime show, and it was the blacks that came out and say, man, that was whack, bruh. The halftime show was not good. It has nothing to do with the color of anybody's skin. The View tries to... The only ones talking about race was Anna Navarro. And it's, I believe, according to their nomenclatures, it's African-American, isn't it? Yeah. Now we're back to blacks. What, in next week's episode, the colored? There's too many colored running around. Like,
Joe, you were asked to participate in the halftime show, but out of some kind of principle, you turned it down. Is it because you are a avowed Aryan?
No, I just don't like football. But I'll say this, when you do a joke about topical situations, it has to be grounded in some sort of reality. And I don't know anybody that was saying to themselves, oh, I hope the music doesn't have any black people in it. The other thing that was interesting to me is, like, I understand why a lot of people don't understand the halftime show, because he was apparently doing a diss track about another rapper, and a lot of people don't identify with that, but we stand-up comedians do. We're always going at each other, roasting each other. That's why I just wanted to say right here, right now, that Jamie's ex is a beautiful lady.
she is beautiful, and she's very sympathetic to guys with big balls.
Jamie, you can respond to that, or we can move on.
Tyrus just explained why I never got any sympathy. Tyrus made a great point, though, that Trump never floated this idea.
Yeah.
Anna Navarro did. Like, if it ever happened, she's the one that came up with it.
No,
right?
Oftentimes these ideas germinate from the accuser. They're the ones thinking the race.
Yeah, I have another issue, too. She said Samuel L. Jackson was dressed like a black Uncle Sam.
Yeah.
I think he was just dressed like Uncle Sam.
Yes. So, Kat, I think the other thing that Anna Navarro missed out was that there were black people in the game.
Right.
That's right.
Yes.
There was a lot of them.
Yeah, there was a lot.
Right.
I mean, how'd that happen? I don't know.
Yeah, when she was obviously, right, as Joe, as you put out, she was joking when she said Trump is going to ban black people from the halftime show. And it drove me kind of nuts seeing people talk about it as if she was being serious, especially when there was so much to make fun of in what was her serious commentary.
Yes.
Which one, a lot of you guys have already brought up, but also what she brought up saying that the racists in her timeline hated the people who were racist against black people, hated the halftime show full of black people. Probably. Like, do we really need to spend time going? Isn't that implied?
Yes.
Isn't that what makes you a racist?
What kind of racist sits through and watches a black-only halftime show? If you're racist, you'd be like, oh.
And by the way, what? She has racists on her feed? I mean, what kind of feed do you have?
You know,
I don't have racists on my feed. I mean, maybe she should look in the mirror if she still has one that isn't broken. All right. Up next, college kids fret about Romeo and Juliet.
5 more words.
Insane trigger warnings for Shakespeare. Joe Mackey. That's all. An English universities issued more than 200 trigger warnings to Shakespeare plays to appease sensitive drama students who complain. They are triggered, for example, by the popping of balloons, storms, extreme weather in The Tempest, which, as you know, is a fancy term for storm. Do you think these are worthy trigger warnings?
Well, I think that these colleges are just preparing to have a bunch of whiny brats that think everything is about them, and they're actually right about that. The thing is, when Shakespeare wrote these, he wasn't worried about some college kid centuries later. He was trying to make a story about life, and bad things happen in life, but it's something that I think I can speak for most comedians, that people think everything is about them, and they try to make themselves the center of all of your jokes, too. I did a joke about how if I had a time machine, what it would be like to go back in time and kill baby Hitler, and how awkward would it be if someone walked in right afterwards, and I would have to explain that. And a lady got really mad at me. She said, "You should never make any jokes about Hitler." And I'm like, well, time machines aren't real.
Kat, Romeo and Juliet got a warning for distress and mourning, and Macbeth for family trauma. Can you relate to this?
Yeah, there's a trigger warning for balloons popping.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I got a trigger warning for when this balloon was gonna pop. Because you don't. Like, I could have a new human to take care of anywhere between a matter of hours to a matter of weeks, and there's nothing I can do. And I've tried everything. Even today I was like, little buddy, come out. We got plastic straws back. But like, if I can handle, like, life is full of things that you're never given a trigger warning before some real happens. That's not unique to me. That's just the human experience.
Mm-hmm.
No one needs this, and if you do, you have bigger issues.
Tyrus?
This is why animals eat their young. You know, you probably, as a parent, you probably couldn't wait to send off sensitive Cindy to school. Beware of Shakespeare. He's going to say some grown-up. You're not going to like it. There's literally no Shakespearean play that doesn't have lying in it, backstabbing, death, affairs. Like, it's the point of the human condition. Mm-hmm. You clearly are too brittle. Don't take this class. Stay in gender studies and then be a real Starbucks barista when you get older.
Jamie, do you have any trigger warnings for your act, like boring?
Yeah, I'm kind of used to that one, but I think this is going to backfire. When we were kids and we would look at a movie and it would say it's R-rated, there's going to be violence and nudity, we would be like, we found our movie.
Yeah.
We're going to watch this movie. And if somebody is afraid of balloons popping, forget Shakespeare. Let's find this clown that did bad things to you.
So true. Don't